The breaking point. The grand chamber of the Stellar Federation hummed with the collective murmur of 200 different species. High Admiral Vexthor of the Arcturian Empire stood at the podium, his crystalline form refracting light across the assembled delegates as he delivered his assessment of humanity's latest petition for increased territorial rights. "These humans," he said, mandibles clicking in barely concealed disdain, barely emerged from their gravity well a century ago. They operate outdated ships, refuse our offers of technological assistance, and now demand equal status with species that have ruled the stars for millennia. Preposterous. In the human section of the chamber, Ambassador Sarah Chen remained perfectly still, her face an expressionless mask. But aboard the Earth Space Force Command Station Artemis, Commander Elena Santos watched the transmission with growing anger. The holographic display showed every dismissive gesture, every contemptuous glance the Federation delegates threw at humanity's representatives. "Their military capabilities are negligible," Vexthor continued. "Our latest assessment shows their entire fleet consists of merely 800 vessels, most of which are retrofitted cargo haulers. They lack basic gravitational manipulation technology, still rely on chemical propellants for some operations, and their fastest ships can barely achieve 0.3 light speed." Elena's fingers tightened around her command chair's armrests. If only they knew about the Nightshade ships, about the true extent of human innovation. But those were thoughts she couldn't afford to entertain, not yet. The meeting continued its downward spiral as species after species rose to voice their opposition to humanity's petition. Some cited human unpredictability, others their primitive technology level, but the underlying message was clear. Humanity was not welcome at the adults' table. Then the alarms began to scream. Multiple contacts. Lieutenant Park's voice cut through the command center's quiet atmosphere. Massive signature deployment from the Drakkar sector. They're everywhere. Elena leaned forward, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display as it lit up with hundreds, then thousands of hostile contacts. The Drakkar Collective, a species that had remained suspiciously quiet during the Federation's debates, had launched a massive assault on human space. "Status of the colony worlds," Elena demanded. "New Montana is already under bombardment," Park reported, his voice tight. "Titan Base reports multiple capital ships in orbit. They're targeting civilian infrastructure." Elena's mind raced. The Drakkar had clearly been watching, waiting for this moment when humanity appeared weakest in the eyes of the Federation. They calculated that no one would intervene to help such an insignificant species. "Get me Fleet Command," Elena ordered. "Priority Alpha." The holographic display shifted, showing Admiral Chen Wei's weathered face. Like Elena, he'd been watching the Federation meeting, and his expression told her he'd already reached the same conclusion she had. "They're testing us," Elena said without preamble. "The Drakkar think we're defenseless." "Agreed." Admiral Chen's response was clipped. "You know what this means, Commander." Elena nodded slowly. "We need to break the silence. The Nightshade Protocol is authorized," Admiral Chen confirmed. "Gods help us all." Elena turned to her crew, seeing the mix of fear and anticipation on their faces. For decades, they trained in secret, prepared for this moment while presenting a facade of technological backwardness to the galaxy. Now, finally, they would show the truth. "Signal the Ghost Fleet," Elena commanded. "All ships, execute Emergence Pattern Delta. Priority targets are Drakkar vessels engaging civilian populations. Let's show them what humanity can really do." Across human space, in the seemingly empty void between planets, in the shadow of gas giants, and in the shelter of asteroid fields, ships began to move. They didn't look like warships, couldn't look like warships by design. Some appeared to be chunks of space debris. Others mimicked natural phenomena, and some simply bent light around themselves in ways that shouldn't be possible. The Drakkar fleet commander was the first to realize something was wrong when 3 of his dreadnoughts simply ceased to exist. There was no warning, no weapons fire, no energy signatures. They simply vanished from his tactical display, transformed into expanding clouds of plasma and debris. In the Federation chamber, the emergency broadcast from the Drekkar sector caused all debate to cease. The assembled delegates watched in stunned silence as humanity's true fleet revealed itself, ship by ship, each one a testament to human ingenuity and determination. Vexthor's crystalline form trembled as he watched a human vessel, if it could be called that, phase through a Drekkar battlecruiser like a ghost, its quantum-shifted hull passing through enemy shields and armor as if they didn't exist. The battlecruiser split in half a moment later, its reactor core destabilized by weapons that defied conventional physics. "Impossible," he whispered, but the evidence was undeniable. Humanity hadn't been struggling to catch up with Federation technology. They'd simply been moving in a completely different direction, developing capabilities that no other species had even conceived of. Project Nightshade. 20 years earlier, Lunar Research Complex Alpha. Dr. Maya Patel stood in the observation deck, watching the failed prototype vessel disintegrate in lunar orbit. At least, that's what the Federation observers would report. In reality, the ship had just achieved humanity's first successful quantum phase shift, becoming completely undetectable to all known forms of scanning technology. "Congratulations," General Sarah Martinez said, stepping up beside her. "You've just made humanity invisible." Maya didn't smile. The weight of what they'd accomplished, what they were about to undertake, pressed down on her shoulders like a physical force. The Federation's restrictions on human technological development may have been the best thing that ever happened to us, she said quietly. "How so?" "They told us what we couldn't have, showed us their technologies, their ways of thinking." Maya gestured at the empty space where the ship had vanished. "So we found different paths. They use gravitational manipulation. We developed quantum phasing. They focus on energy shields. We created matter phase disruption." General Martinez nodded slowly. "And because they think they know our capabilities, they've stopped looking for alternatives." The conversation was interrupted by Dr. James Chen, Maya's lead physicist, rushing into the observation deck. His usually calm demeanor was shattered by excitement. "It worked better than we hoped," he announced, holding up a data tablet. "The quantum signature is completely masked. Even our own sensors can't detect it unless they know exactly what to look for." The implications were staggering. While the Federation and its member species had focused on building bigger ships with more powerful weapons and stronger shields, humanity had been quietly developing ways to bypass such defenses entirely. Project Nightshade wasn't just about creating stealth ships, it was about fundamentally changing the nature of space warfare. "How soon can we begin mass production?" Martins asked. Maya took the tablet, scanning the test results. "That's the beauty of it. We don't need massive shipyards. The quantum phase generators can be retrofitted to existing vessels. Small cargo ships, mining vessels, even space debris can be converted into Nightshade platforms. And the weapons systems, even better." Maya pulled up another set of schematics. "We've developed what we're calling phase torpedoes. They exist partially in quantum flux, allowing them to pass through conventional shields and hull armor. When they rematerialize fully..." She let the implication hang. Martinez's expression hardened. "The Federation's restrictions on human weapons development don't apply," Maya finished. "Because technically, these aren't weapons as they understand them. We're not generating massive energy beams or gravity disruption fields. We're simply shifting matter." The next few years saw the greatest secret engineering project in human history. Across the solar system, seemingly abandoned stations and derelict ships were quietly converted into Nightshade vessels. Every failed prototype, every apparent technological setback reported to the Federation masked another advancement in quantum phase technology. But the project faced internal challenges as well. Not everyone agreed with the policy of deception. Senator Richard Torres led a vocal minority in Earth's government who argued for transparency with the Federation. "We're proving them right about humanity being untrustworthy," Torres argued during a closed Senate session. If we reveal our advances now, demonstrate our willingness to share this technology, we could secure our place in the Federation through cooperation rather than deception. Admiral Chen Wei, then a junior officer, had stood to respond. Senator, I understand your concern. But consider this, the Federation's current peace is based on mutually assured destruction. Every major power possesses weapons capable of devastating entire solar systems. They maintain peace because they fear each other's capabilities. He pulled up a holographic display of known Federation military deployments. But they don't fear us. They see us as primitives, barely worth monitoring. And that perception is our greatest advantage. The moment we reveal Nightshade, every major power will begin working to counter it. But if we maintain this deception until we're forced to use it, we'll have a fleet they can't fight because they don't even know it exists. Martinez finished. The debate raged for months, but in the end, secrecy prevailed. Humanity would continue its masquerade of technological inadequacy while building its ghost fleet in plain sight. Ships that could become invisible, weapons that could bypass any defense, and a defensive network that no one knew to look for. Training the crews for these vessels posed another unique challenge. They had to learn to operate technology that officially didn't exist, while maintaining the fiction of using vastly inferior systems. Every Nightshade ship had two sets of controls, the real ones and the decoy systems that matched their supposed technological level. Maya watched the training simulations with pride and anxiety. Pride in what humanity had accomplished, anxiety about whether they were doing the right thing. The quantum phase technology could revolutionize peaceful space travel as well as warfare, but they'd chosen to develop it as a weapon first. Having doubts, Martinez asked one evening, finding Maya in her lab long after most of the complex had shut down. Not about the technology, Maya replied, but about us, about humanity. We've created something revolutionary, and our first instinct was to make it into a weapon. Martinez was quiet for a long moment. Maybe, but we're building these ships to protect our people, not to conquer others. The Federation sees us as primitive, treats us as inferior. If they knew what we were capable of, they'd respect us, or fear us. Sometimes, Martinez said softly, those are the same thing. As Project Nightshade neared completion, humanity's apparent technological progress remained frustratingly slow to outside observers. Their ships were still relatively slow, their weapons primitive by Federation standards. But beneath this carefully crafted facade, a fleet of ghosts was taking shape, crewed by men and women who lived double lives, protecting a secret that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. What no one could have predicted was how soon that secret would need to be revealed. The Ghost Fleet rises. Present day, ESF Command Station Artemis. Commander Elena Santos watched the tactical display as the Drikkar fleet continued their advance through human space. They were following standard Federation military doctrine. Overwhelming force, precise formation, and textbook deployment of their superior technology. It would have been impressive if it wasn't so predictable. Ghost Fleet, this is command. She broadcast on the quantum-encrypted channel. Execute Operation Phantom Dawn. Weapons free. Show them what humanity can do. Across the battlefield, space itself seemed to ripple as the Nightshade ships dropped their camouflage. The Drikkar's unique formations suddenly found themselves intermixed with hostile vessels that seemed to materialize from nowhere. Ships that their sensors still couldn't properly track, using weapons that ignored their most sophisticated defenses. First blood to the Artemis, Lieutenant Park announced as the command station's own phase torpedoes struck their targets. 3 Drikkar cruisers vanished in silent explosions, their quantum-shifted hulls offering no more protection against phase weapons than paper against a flame. The Drikkar responded with predictable fury, their energy weapons and gravitational disruptors lighting up space, and hitting nothing. The human ships phased in and out of normal space, becoming ghostly silhouettes that weapons passed through harmlessly. They're trying to adapt, Technical Officer Yuki Tanaka reported, monitoring the enemy's electromagnetic emissions. Their sensors are cycling through different frequencies, trying to get a lock on our quantum signatures. Alina allowed herself a small smile. Let them try. Dr. Paddle designed the phase shifts to be random. They'd have better luck trying to catch smoke with their hands. On the main viewer, a massive Drikkar dreadnought dominated the scene. Its commander was clearly frustrated, firing pattern after pattern of energy weapons into space, hoping to hit the human ships through sheer volume of fire. A futile gesture. You couldn't hit what existed partially out of phase with normal matter. Artemis Actual to Ghost Fleet. Alina broadcast. Execute attack pattern CRS-7. Let's show them what coordinated warfare looks like. The human fleet moved with practiced precision. Ships that appeared to be random pieces of debris suddenly revealed themselves as heavily armed warships. Vessels that the Drikkar's sensors registered as simple mining craft turned out to be carriers launching swarms of phase-shifted fighters. But it was the psychological impact that proved most devastating. The Drikkar, like most Federation species, were used to warfare being a straightforward affair of superior firepower and better shields. The idea of ships that could simply ignore their defenses, that could appear anywhere and vanish just as quickly, went against everything they understood about space combat. Enemy fleet is breaking formation, Park reported with barely contained excitement. Their command and control is deteriorating. Alina nodded grimly. As expected, their entire military doctrine is based on maintaining tight formations and coordinated fire patterns. Hard to do that when you can't trust your sensors or your eyes. The battle continued to unfold across human space. On New Montana, colonists who had been bracing for orbital bombardment instead witnessed Drikkar ships exploding in their skies, struck by weapons they couldn't see from ships their sensors couldn't detect. Message from Fleet Command. Communications Officer Lisa Chen announced. The Federation Council is demanding an emergency session. They want answers. I bet they do, Alina muttered. She opened a channel to Admiral Chen. Sir, the Drikkar fleet is in disarray. Request permission to pursue and eliminate their remaining capital ships. Granted, Chen replied, his voice tight with controlled emotion. But maintain some restraint, Commander. We need to demonstrate our capabilities without revealing all our cards. The Federation needs to understand we can defend ourselves, not think we're preparing for galactic conquest. Alina acknowledged the order and turned back to her tactical display. The Drikkar fleet was already retreating, their neat formations shattered. Their mighty warships reduced to prey fleeing before predators they couldn't fight effectively. Message from the Drikkar flagship, Lisa reported. They're requesting terms of surrender. A hush fell over the command center. This was unprecedented. The Drikkar were one of the Federation's premier military powers. Their surrender would send shockwaves through galactic politics. Put them through, Alina ordered. The holographic display showed the Drikkar fleet commander, his insectoid features rigid with what she assumed was barely contained rage. Your victory is. The translator struggled with the complex harmonics of Drikkar speech. Acknowledged. We request safe passage to withdraw our remaining forces. Alina's response was carefully measured. Agreed, on one condition. You will make full reparations for the damage to our colonies, and you will acknowledge before the Federation Council that humanity is not to be underestimated. The Drikkar commander's mandibles clicked in what might have been agreement or resignation. Your species has hidden depths. We will not forget this lesson. As the remaining Drikkar ships limped away from human space, Alina received another priority message, this time from Dr. Maya Patel herself. Magnificent performance, the scientist said, her holographic image showing signs of fierce pride. But you realize this is just the beginning. The Federation won't be able to ignore us now. They'll want answers. Let them ask their questions, Alina replied. We've shown them what happens when they underestimate humanity. Now it's time to show them what happens when they respect us. The next few hours were a blur of activity, damage reports from the colonies, after-action analyses, and an endless stream of messages from Earth's government trying to prepare for the diplomatic storm that was about to break. But through it all, Elena couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Humanity had been dismissed as primitive, treated as children playing at being a spacefaring civilization. Now, in the span of a single battle, they had demonstrated technological capabilities that no other species had even theorized possible. Message from the Federation Council. Lisa announced, "They're convening an emergency session in 1 hour. All major powers are required to attend." Elena shared a knowing look with her bridge crew. The real test was about to begin. Humanity had proven they could fight. Now they needed to prove they could lead. Breaking the chain. The Grand Chamber of the Stellar Federation had never been so silent. The holographic displays showed footage from the battle against the Drikkar fleet, and every species present watched with a mixture of awe and barely concealed fear as human ships phased through capital-class vessels like ghosts through walls. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the podium, her posture relaxed, but her eyes sharp as she surveyed the assembled delegates. Distinguished members of the Federation, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. You asked for answers. We are here to provide them. High Admiral Vexthor's crystalline form vibrated with suppressed emotion. You deceived us. For decades, you presented yourselves as technological primitives, while developing weapons that violate every known law of physics. No, Chen corrected smoothly. We developed along a different path than the one you prescribed. You showed us your technology, told us what was possible and what wasn't. We simply chose to question those assumptions. The Arcturian science minister floated forward, his energy form flickering with intense patterns. The quantum phase technology. It should be impossible. Matter cannot simply shift out of alignment with normal spacetime. According to your understanding of physics, Chen agreed. But human scientists have always excelled at questioning the impossible. When you told us we couldn't have advanced weapons, we created weapons that your defenses couldn't stop. When you restricted our drive technology, we developed ways to move through space itself. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices as dozens of species tried to speak at once. The Centaurian delegation demanded immediate access to phase shift technology. The Drikkar representatives called for sanctions against Earth for treaty violations. The Arcturian Empire threatened to withdraw from the Federation entirely. Through it all, Chen remained calm. When the chaos subsided, she spoke again. We are not here to dominate. We are not here to conquer. We are here to take our rightful place among the stars. Not as subordinates, not as primitives to be uplifted, but as equals. In orbit above the Federation capital, Commander Elena Santos watched the proceedings from the bridge of the Artemis. Her ship, along with a dozen other Nightshade vessels, had escorted the human delegation. Their presence was both protection and demonstration, a reminder of humanity's new place in the galactic order. Multiple ships approaching from the Arcturian sector. Lieutenant Park reported. Capital-class vessels, weapons powered but not targeted. Elena nodded. The show of force was expected. The major powers wouldn't accept humanity's emergence without testing their resolve. Maintain phase shift. Let them see us, but remind them they can't touch us. The Arcturian vessels took up attack positions, their crystalline hulls gleaming in the light of the system's twin suns. A transmission cut through the tension. Human vessel, a familiar voice rang out. It was Vexthor himself, speaking from his flagship. Your technology is impressive, but you must understand that actions have consequences. The Federation cannot allow one species to possess such a decisive military advantage. Elena's response was measured. With respect, Admiral, you don't have a choice. We spent decades being dismissed and restricted. Now we're offering cooperation, but it will be on equal terms. The tactical display lit up as more ships arrived. Drikkar dreadnoughts, Centaurian cruisers, even the mysterious Zinfard in their living vessels. Within hours, the Federation capital had become the site of the largest fleet concentration in recent history. But something unexpected was happening. As the various species sensors studied the human ships, their scientists began to understand. The quantum phase technology wasn't just a weapon. It was a key to understanding the universe in a completely new way. The Arcturian science minister was the first to make the connection. "Your ships," he transmitted to the Artemis, "they're not just moving through space differently. They're accessing underlying layers of reality we never knew existed." "Exactly," Elena confirmed. Dr. Patel theorized that what we call normal space is just one layer of a much more complex structure. The phase shift technology lets us operate in these other layers. The implications were staggering. Phase shift technology could revolutionize everything from space travel to energy production. But more importantly, it represented a fundamental shift in how species understood the universe. Back in the Federation chamber, the mood was changing. The initial fear and anger were being replaced by curiosity, and in some cases, genuine admiration. Humanity hadn't just developed new weapons, they'd opened up entirely new fields of scientific discovery. "We propose a compromise," Chen announced to the assembled delegates. "Humanity will share our phase shift technology, but gradually and under controlled conditions. In return, we demand full membership in the Federation and an end to all technological restrictions on human development." The debate raged for hours, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The Federation's choice was simple: adapt to humanity's emergence as a major power, or risk becoming obsolete in a galaxy where the fundamental rules had changed. Message from Earth. Communications Officer Lisa Chen reported aboard the Artemis. "Project Dawn is approved." Elena smiled. Project Dawn was the next phase of human innovation, developments that would make quantum phase technology look primitive by comparison. But this time, humanity wouldn't hide their advances. They would lead the way openly, helping to forge a new era of galactic cooperation. "The Federation is changing," Admiral Chen transmitted from Earth. "The old power structures are breaking down. We need to be ready for what comes next." Elena looked out at the assembled fleet of alien vessels, no longer potential enemies but future partners in exploration and discovery. Humanity had broken their chains not through conquest or destruction, but by showing the galaxy a new way forward. "We're ready," she replied. "The question is the galaxy ready for us?" A new dawn. 1 year later, New Federation Research Center, Luna Base. Dr. Maya Patel stood at the observation window of humanity's newest and most ambitious project. Below, teams of scientists from 24 species worked together, studying the principles that had made the Nightshade fleet possible. But they weren't just learning about quantum phase technology. They were helping to push it in new directions. "Remarkable," the Arcturian science minister observed, his energy form pulsing with excitement. "Your species went from being restricted to showing us possibilities we never imagined. The quantum gateway prototype alone could revolutionize interstellar travel." Maya nodded, watching as the experimental device powered up. The quantum gateway was the next evolution of phase shift technology. Instead of simply moving through different layers of spacetime, it could create stable corridors between distant points. If it worked, it would make traditional FTL travel obsolete. "Success was never about the technology," she replied. "It was about perspective." Every species in the Federation had grown comfortable with their understanding of physics. We simply asked different questions. In orbit above Earth, Commander Elena Santos supervised the integration of phase shift technology into the Federation's emergency response fleet. The same capabilities that had made the Nightshade ships such effective weapons were being repurposed for search and rescue, disaster relief, and scientific exploration. "Quantum signature detected," Lieutenant Park announced. "Arcturian heavy cruiser Crystalline Dawn requesting permission to dock. They're here for the joint training exercise." Elena smiled. A year ago, the idea of Federation ships willingly learning from humans would have seemed absurd. Now it was routine. The Nightshade revelation had broken down more than just technological barriers. It had shattered centuries of prejudice and assumption. "Permission granted," she responded. and inform Ambassador Chen that the Drakkar delegation has arrived for the Technology Exchange Summit. The same Drakkar who had once dismissed humanity as primitives were now eager students of human innovation. Their defeat had been humbling, but it had also opened their eyes to new possibilities. Their engineers had already begun combining quantum phase technology with their own gravitational manipulation systems, creating hybrid technologies that neither species could have developed alone. In the Federation Council chamber, now relocated to a new facility in Earth orbit, Sarah Chen was putting the finishing touches on humanity's most ambitious proposal yet. The stellar concordat, she explained to the assembled delegates, represents a fundamental shift in how we approach galactic cooperation. No more technological restrictions, no more artificial hierarchies. Every species contributes what they can and benefits from our collective advancement. High Admiral Vexthor, now one of humanity's strongest supporters in the Federation leadership, added his voice to the discussion. The humans have shown us that diversity of thought is our greatest strength. When we tried to force every species to develop along the same technological path, we stagnated. Now, we're seeing an explosion of innovation across all member worlds. The evidence was undeniable. In the years since humanity's emergence, more new technologies had been developed than in the previous century. The combination of different scientific approaches had led to breakthroughs that would have been impossible for any single species. Aboard the Artemis, Alina received a priority transmission from Admiral Chen. The concordat passed. He announced, his weathered face showing rare emotion. Unanimously, every major power has signed on. Alina took a moment to let the news sink in. The stellar concordat would transform the galaxy, replacing the old Federation's rigid hierarchy with a new system based on cooperation and shared discovery. But more challenges lay ahead. Project Oracle is ready for announcement, Admiral Chen continued. Dr. Patel believes it's time to reveal what we've learned about the quantum substrate. Alina's breath caught. Project Oracle was humanity's greatest secret, bigger than the Nightshade Fleet, more revolutionary than quantum phase technology. During their experiments with phase shifting, human scientists had detected patterns in the quantum substrate, suggestions that the universe was far stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. The Federation wasn't ready for that knowledge before, Alina said carefully. Are you sure they're ready now? They're not just ready, Chen replied. They're asking the right questions. The Arcturians, the Drakkar, even the Zinfar. They're all seeing the patterns now. We just had to show them where to look. In the Lunar Research Center, Maya watched as the Quantum Gateway prototype activated successfully for the first time. The swirling portal of shifted space-time represented more than just a new form of transportation. It was a symbol of what could be achieved when species worked together instead of against each other. We never wanted to rule the galaxy, she mused to the Arcturian minister. We just wanted to explore it, to understand it. And now, finally, we can do that together. The minister's energy form pulsed in what she had learned was agreement. Your species taught us something invaluable. The universe is not limited by what we think is possible. It is limited only by our willingness to imagine something more. As the quantum gateway stabilized, creating a bridge to a research station 50 light-years away, Maya thought about the long journey that had brought them here. From a restricted primitive species to the architects of a new galactic order. From hiding their achievements to sharing them openly. From fear and isolation to cooperation and discovery. The Ghost Fleet that had once haunted human space now served as a reminder, not of humanity's military might, but of their capacity for innovation, their willingness to question established limits, and their determination to forge their own path among the stars. In the end, humanity's greatest victory hadn't come from their weapons or their technology. It had come from their ability to show the galaxy a new way forward, to transform potential enemies into partners, and to replace fear with hope. As Alina looked out at Earth from the Artemis observation deck, watching ships from a dozen species moving in harmony through space that had once been restricted to them, she smiled. The Ghost Fleet had served its purpose. Now it was time for humanity's next great adventure, not alone, but as part of something greater than themselves. The dawn of a new era had arrived, and its light would reach every corner of the galaxy. The end.